Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I've decided to revisit the Ukrainian war and discuss some of the forecasting I had done a few months ago. You can call it predictive analysis or even just predictions. But if you haven't seen those videos, go ahead and take a look at them. I made some back in January and February discussing how the Ukrainian counteroffensive would probably happen in the summertime and only after the arrival of additional equipment, mainly in the form of tanks and armored vehicles. As we have seen, some of that has actually happened already, and in addition to that, the Ukrainian forces have received cluster ammunition and as well as mine clearing equipment, mine clearing armored vehicles, which is important for the overall analysis that I'm about to make. So with that, let's take a look at what I discussed. Now, back in the January-February period, I talked about where the counteroffensive would happen most likely. And while everyone was looking at the day-by-day battle changes that were happening in the Bakhmut area, I was saying, okay, well, the Ukrainian military is trying to bleed off the Russians. Let's just do a little recap here. We know that the Kherson area here had been occupied by Russian forces. And we know that those forces retreated and went back up to the area of Bakhmut in order to reinforce Bakhmut and to allow for the attacks to happen there, including the Wagner group, which was up in that area. And if we recall some of the videos we've seen in some of the other channels that report this on a day-by-day basis, we saw that Russia was bringing in conscripts from prisons and put them into the Wagner group. We know that the Wagner group had a lot of casualties, a lot of issues. Basically, the heads of the Wagner group are now dead, and so that group is pretty much non-existent for the most part. What it did achieve for Ukraine was it bled off some of those troops, gave Ukraine time to prepare for a counteroffensive towards the Berdyansk city area. And now, why is this important? Well, we have Mariupol here and we have Melitopol here. You have this supply road that kind of comes through here that feeds into this whole area here in the Kherson area and the northern part of the Crimea. And so why that's important is because with all the attacks on the bridges down here and attacks on Sevastopol and other areas that have been hit, what's happening is that in order for Russia to maintain supply lines into this region here and prevent an attack directly into the north part of the Crimea, they have to have this defensive supply line coming through here. Now, the reason I say that Berdyansk was the area of attack is because if you look at a topography map, that area of attack would be basically right through here into Berdyansk. And what you can see here is that this whole area is basically hillside and elevated, and would give the Russians an advantage in not only defense, but also in possible attacks or counterattacks. So the only viable area of attack for the Ukrainians at this point is they either do a direct attack on Melitopol, which would be very costly, or they would try to get around some of the weaker forces and make it to this roadway here, and then off to Berdyansk, cutting off the main highway that comes through here, and obviously the main supply line. If they can do that, the entire western side, Kherson, and the north side of the Crimea would be in jeopardy of falling into the hands of the Ukrainian forces. So this is where the counteroffensive is happening that I predicted. This is exactly what is happening now, and I'm going to show you a few maps. And again, these maps are available in other day-by-day videos that other folks are making. I just wanted to kind of recap this to put it into a little more perspective from a more strategic level, because I think if you just look at day-by-day maps without looking at overlays or different things like topography, you're going to miss a little bit of why this is happening, where it's happening, and it'll allow you to kind of make your own predictions and make your own analysis of why the battles are happening where they're happening. So as we look at this map here, we can see kind of the front lines and where the attacks are happening. Now, I've gone back into July 3rd here And so you can see where the front line was right here, and the attack has started happening right here. Now, why that's important? Well, it's important for a lot of reasons. Melitopol is down here, Berdyansk is here, Mariupol is here. Again, we have this entire hillside area here, so it's going to be very, very difficult to do any kind of attacks this way, and probably difficult to make any attacks this way because this is closer to Russian reinforcements from this side. So Mariupol is off the table, I think. Melitopol is probably off the table because you have all these defensive lines here. It would be very costly to come down this way. Now, it's important to see that the attack is happening this way, and as I fast forward, you can see where the attack has really pushed along here. And if we looked a little closer, we can see that a lot of the front trench lines have been breached and that work is happening along this way here. Now, in my opinion, and others can probably find this information, and if you know about it, leave a comment below. I'd like to hear about what your thoughts are on this. But they're probably using cluster ammunition along here to soften up these trench lines, and then pushing through with either armored vehicles or just infantry just to push through here. But you can see that Tokmak is well supported here, so I think the idea is to get behind them. Again, this is all hillside here, and so I doubt that there's going to be any other direction other than kind of this way. And if we look at the map a little bit further out, we can see that if the Ukrainian forces are able to achieve a breach here and are able to reinforce some of these areas here with other attacks, that they will actually get behind the Russian lines and then possibly make a dash for Berdyansk. Now, they don't even have to take the entire city. They can come here and move along some of these other roads, or even just come across here and block this highway. Again, the whole idea, I think, in the strategy is to prevent the supply lines from moving from Russia to the Crimea or to the Kherson area further west. That's my prediction, and I think what we're going to see is a breakthrough here probably in the next few weeks. These attacks are taking a lot longer than you would think in a modern war, and mostly the reason for this is that Ukraine and Russia are not operating a lot of their air forces. Ukraine's air force has been pretty much destroyed. Russian forces are afraid to use any kind of aircraft, as we've seen in the past that a lot of them have been shot down with anti-aircraft missiles and things like that. So what's happening is this is just reminiscent of World War I, to push through with infantry, maybe some armored vehicles. But I do believe that the Ukrainian forces are going to cut through these defensive lines and make a dash for this highway. That's my prediction. And then to follow up on that, one last thing is I'm going to say here, and again, I made these videos, again, 8-9 months ago. You can come check them out. I encourage you to do so. Helps the channel out, but also puts all of this into context. What you will see here is that if you go towards the Kherson area, two quick little things. We remember that there were some attacks through the Kinburn Spit here, and then there was no more videos, no more news about this. We can see that the Russians have made a defensive line here, so they're aware that there's either Ukrainian forces already occupying these points, or that they're susceptible to commando raids or attacks. So that's happening there. The other places, again, if the supply lines are cut off this way, these forces here will be forced to retreat back to the Crimea or be in danger of being completely surrounded and cut off. So I think that's what's happening. Let's see what happens in the next few weeks. If you like this video, please hit the like button. It lets me know that you enjoy the content. I will then continue to make more. Leave your comments. Yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks again.